Mima, good afternoon. Number original television. Me that's say, and then so what they were feeding on at to how share the hot seat, and there ye share a year. So come my share between one minority and at a dom ketwano. A brand here back or no, or be kind of say, or you're very dynamic. They say, or kasa, bar contribution on the floor of parliament. What's an income? Be a far a year Ghana, among your summer papa way, and as a brand here. Any bidding kita hono edimu akotene ewo mem enkane no na sabi otima kundwa yimu now your broadcaster and say anopa de no che traffic because en same be kan radio so na nya asam ketwa anche e no beye eye politician nya say amanyoni ebisa ne say mra no ye broadcasting nya na woni tim say da achi bi oba beye eye mra she bedwani na na sane peso asofo e na ma na pressure and no succumb to pressure no jay adwuma ya ene ye ojato ho ekoye sa eye mrashebedwuma adwuma me kire eye honorable anase MP a oginamu matamale north abato empeso so ewe tifedo mantemo wo san pa mrashebedwuma a abedweko a omototo wana omanpanyin yi omosombe ya asoyafo na okansa abedweko me kire appointment committee ewo mrashebedwuma papa we or hard dream or committee ni so pa what to say minister si ekwa just say obi a hwe question or dey baby sana me sha or no any honorable okujeto ablakwa edu omuso na ma jija da konwe because minim say questions never no ebenya news e dey afremo and then me guess the hot seat honorable Al-Hassan Suhini or sanso ye Alhaji ono twi no enheda anye papasa into no beka brofo dodo na o kan be asesa me de twi no so frafra no me de be frafra mo e de amount and me guess mrashebedwani e de ma Tamale North abato en peso aso e wo northern region na certificate mantemo honorable Alhaji Suhini Al-Hassan Suhini honorable good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for virtual your partner also. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Mameka say I'm a fan from afar. When you were a broadcaster, but it's also what sister kakra, be your politician. I didn't. What's the difference?
Well, I don't really know where the change is, but I think that politics for me, it's like an expanded version of what we do in the media, especially if you are a political broadcaster like I was, hosting political shows. You tend to know almost everything that goes on in the political system. So when you make the switch from the studio to, in my case, Parliament, you move from talking politics to doing politics. So and they all have different requirements. I mean, when you are a host, like you are, you have what is expected of you to do. And when you are a member of Parliament, serving on committees, you have, what is expected of you to do. So to that extent, there may be some changes, but generally I see it as one and the same. Just the responsibilities differ. You are still serving the public. Really?
Yes.
I don't consider myself as a troublemaker. I just do what I think has to be done, and especially that's what people say about journalists, not so. Almost say like when you want to take control of your program and get your viewers informed and educated and entertained, sometimes you get out of yourself to do things just in the service of your listeners. So that is how I see it. I mean, I have a responsibility to represent my constituency and to represent the generality of Ghanaians who do not have the privilege that I have. So when I am on the floor, what I always think about is, what would the ordinary man on the street expect of me? If he or she had the opportunity I have, what would have been his question or her question? Yeah, and that is what is my motivation.
So far, so last time we were in Parliament, this time we are at Waba. What are your people telling you? I mean, Ubai, what are they saying about remarks being and
Well, it's really humbling. I mean, to be honest with you, I didn't know I had that level of support when I first began the journey from the studio to contest even in the NDC primaries. I thought of it as something I just needed to do to get, out of my way. And I went in to win, but I wouldn't have been surprised if I didn't, but I was humbled, by the show of support, the show of love, and, the length that people were willing to go just to make sure that they got me to represent them really, really touched me and has always been my motivation. And I am always, full of gratitude and indebtedness to the people of the Tamale North constituency for the love and support that they have shown me. I mean, at the time that I went, the NDC was in power. People had expectations, and one would have thought that once the NDC lost power in 2016, maybe they would have lost hope and all of that. But they have remained very focused. They ensured that the last election we even won with a bigger margin, and that is humbling. I mean, and whatever we do, whatever success we chalk, we do it with all humility, and we give Allah the praise, and we thank them for the support and their ability to make it happen. So what they tell me is that, we are happy with what you are doing. We want you to do more. I'll tell you one thing an old man told me once. He says, a child never knows that the father doesn't have. And so they will never stop making demands of me to do more. But what they don't want is for me to embarrass myself in my attempt to satisfy their needs. So, and
that's very deep.
That is very deep. I consider it deep too. And it has always been my guide, yes. So I continue to do my very best, and I thank God they continue to appreciate my very best. Yes. The demands will keep coming, but we will continue to do our very best.
And I know that demands are very crucial back in the constituency. What has Honorable Suhini Etimiaya more I want to say wait here is through our Honorable and I say MP in Etimiya this project that was North?
Well, a couple of them. I mean, we have been able to improve on the infrastructure of the area, especially health infrastructure, education infrastructure, and also human resource development. So we have a scholarship scheme that supports students who are in need. We do that every semester, especially tertiary students. Those are the people we support to, pay their fees to the best of our ability. We also have, so far in the last 4 years, ensured that 3 clinics are constructed in 3 different areas in the constituency. I mean, from scratch. And these are not just, brick and mortar clinics. I mean, standard clinics and clinics that come with even guests, what do they call it? Quarters, nurses' quarters. So you have 2 quarters attached to the clinic. In about 2 communities, we have the quarters attached to the clinic, and the other one is still under construction. Then we also have improved the water situation, the number of boreholes. I can't even count at this stage. I think we have done over 20 boreholes in different communities just to improve the water situation in the area. We have also built a number of schools, 3-unit classroom blocks. In Kalpohene, we have one there. We also have one in Kamble. The clinics, I should perhaps mention the communities. We have one in Watke, we have one at Balahe, we have one also at Fo now. So these are some of the things that, with the support of the people and with the goodwill that we also have from other institutions, we have been able to contribute to. We also have renovated and almost all the health facilities that we met in the constituency. One at Kamble, one at Kalpohene, one at Taha. we have renovated all of them and put them to, you know, a standard where it is delivering very good healthcare to the people. And many other things. I mean, skills development, we train women in soap making, in pastries and all of that, and set them up with some little capital every now and then. So, I mean, there are so many that I will not be able. Sometimes what I have been faced with, especially when I do interviews in the local radio stations in Tamale, is that when you begin to list some of the things that you have done and they open the phone lines, and some communities get angry that you didn't mention what you did in their area, because it's as if you don't appreciate what you did. But it is humbling when they do that, because then it tells you how much they appreciate what you did.
All right. We will come to Parliament proper, but let me take you still back to your constituency. We're a new constituency. Meka a boku clashes here a war. Meaning say new constituency, but a uniano meka uniano ma meaning say what I say. I mean say wabeye honorable manu do jem moka they listen, the youth listen to people like you from the community. Is there any plan, say, those of you from that part of Ghana no, will sit the youth down? No more say it's not about violence. It's about, I mean, sitting down and talking about our issues.
Yeah, I mean, I think those plans are already underway. I do know that a member of parliament is working very hard, Honorable Ayarga, is working very hard with some opinion leaders to see how they can diffuse attention in the area. The Boku crisis it's a historical one. I mean, and so sometimes if you do not understand the history of the problem, you may not appreciate, you know, the reasons why they engage in the scuffles that they engage in. My only problem with the discussions sometimes that are conducted around it nationwide is usually the misconceptions that we have. I mean, when I was a reporter back in the day, reporting for Radio Gold from Tamale and also CTFM from Tamale when they finally came, I used to have those arguments with, you know, my editors in the newsroom. And it's like, as a country, we still don't understand our country that well. We still don't know our country that well. We know portions and patches of our country, and we replicate it and apply it to you know, other places. Because you see, those days when I was a reporter, the Dagbong issue was very, very, you know, much in the news, and there were times they would call you and say, "Oh, we hear the north is on fire." And I say, "No, it is Abuabu they are fighting." They say, "Where is Abuabu?" And I say, "It's just some community in Tamale." They say, "Oh, but that's the north." I say, "No, wait a minute. It's just Abuabu." And people maybe in Sakasaka, in Chogo, will not even know that there is a problem until you report it in the news. And I used to try to let them get the picture that it's the same, as the disturbances we hear from, say, La, or from Nungwa, or from Osu. Sometimes when they disagree over chieftaincy, they throw stones, maybe some people get hurt or get dead, and then the security go there. It doesn't mean the South is on fire. It doesn't mean they like fighting in the South. It doesn't mean, you know, the youth there don't know what to do. They are always fighting. It's just that these are little portions of disagreements in our country that sometimes degenerate. So as a nation, we have a youth problem and a youth opportunity. You know, I say it's a problem and it's an opportunity, because everywhere in the world it is the youth that change nations, that change the destiny of nations by their contributions to productivity and all of that. But in the absence of opportunities for them to apply their energies to contribute to the growth and productivity, they may engage in some of this unwarranted, you know, violence and disturbances that put all of us at risk. So we have to look at the Boku problem not as an isolated, you know, conduct of youth in that area, but as something that every youth in every part of the country engage in when they are faced with disagreements over either chieftaincy or land or, you know, whatever. I mean, even students in the university, we've had to close down KNUST before because students were misbehaving. That's the youth. So it is how our youth, express their anger that we have to begin to talk about. But a lot of it will depend on you, the media, or us, the media,
right.
and especially those in authority and in responsible positions. We need to make sure that we bridge some gap that I see existing between us and those who do not have our privileges. Let's engage them more. Let us tell them our stories, how we all transformed from where we were to where we are now, and how they can all take advantage to transform and grow.
Back to Parliament. So why are you fighting now in Parliament? We didn't see this the other Parliament. Now you are throwing blows.
You know, it's not something that we are proud of. It's not something that we are proud of. I don't know any member of Parliament who is proud, seeing himself or herself on the screen, pulling chairs and, pushing each other and hitting each other and holding each other. Nobody's going to be proud of that. I will not like my daughters to see me in that scene. But, building a nation is not an easy task, especially when we have chosen to use the democratic vehicle. I'll tell you what, nasty as it may seem, trust me, it is still better than what other countries that are not practicing democracy are going through. As we speak, we are a people who have the opportunity to disagree on the important issues that matter to us, and do so freely, and even do so to the point of pulling chairs and pushing each other. But at the end of the day, no gun is shot. Nobody dies. Everyone goes home to sleep and then takes a bath and goes to work the next day. That's the beauty of democracy. In another regime, you will not have that opportunity. If you disagree too much, even if you are doing so in the interest of the people, like we believe we are doing, you will end up in Nsawam, and that's when you are lucky. Otherwise, your family won't find you again. So no matter how nasty the sins may seem, we have to accept it as one of the,
shortfalls.
Not even a shortfall. One of the blots of democracy. And take it as it is and see how we can improve upon the way we disagree on the floor. But we need to also understand what causes those things and deal with the causes. Because if you don't clean the wound and put plaster on it, it won't heal. So what causes those disagreements that lead to the fisticuffs? Something must be the cause.
E-levy.
But is it really the e-levy? I mean, there have been other levies. For example, VAT.
That's what I want to know.
You remember,
from
like
you.
VAT.
What about the e-levy that is making our honorable members throwing blows?
When VAT was first introduced during the NDC regime, and our current president was in opposition, they kicked vehemently against it because they said it was going to burden the people. The people were already suffering. And so they will not agree. Imagine, the military ruler who had become a Democrat, Jerry Rawlings, did not force his way to pass it, even though he had an overwhelming majority in Parliament. All the members of Parliament, majority of them were, he could have just said, go and pass it for me. Or don't go home. After all, he was a military ruler. But you know what he did? He said, if the people say that it is too much, it will create hardship, let us withdraw it and then discuss among the people and see what we can do, because we also need the money to develop the country. That was a military man who was, a president. So it beats my imagination that somebody like our current president, who demonstrated the way he demonstrated, and even criticized the military man and said he was not democratic enough, cannot learn from that military man that in a democracy, when the people say they don't want something, you don't force it down their throats.
Is it the minority saying they don't want, or the people?
Almost every poll, scientific and unscientific, that I have seen so far, shows that people don't want it. All the tax experts I have heard, from the, lecture halls to the, consultant rooms, are all criticizing the levy.
What about if it's the only option and only a day a bit media filling in your tax gaps? That's the only option our government and
remember, this government before they came to power said taxing people and borrowing was a very lazy way of managing the economy. So
outside the government, now they are in government, they see the reality.
So how can that be the only way? They said that taxing people and borrowing was very lazy. Now the question is that the only way? The GII, that's the Ghana Integrity Initiative, says that we lose $3 billion every year to corruption. The Auditor General has just released the amount of money that is lost to corruption, misappropriation, more than the amount that government is hoping to get from the e-levy. That is at least evidence of what the GII is saying. We have also said a number of times that we are willing to help government cut down on its expenditure.
How?
The Office of Government Machinery, for example, in the last 4 or 5 years, the amount of money that they have pumped to the Office of Government Machinery is more than 5 times they inherited. More than 5 times. In fact, it was less than $1 billion under President Mahama. Less than $1 billion Ghana cedis under President Mahama. But in 2017, it went to 1.4 billion Ghana cedis. And has been increasing. Ejuma to say like the flying of the expensive jets, is that the Ejuma? I mean, really, is that, how does that benefit you and I, that they want to tax our momo, that our president must have the luxury of flying in a very expensive private jet, not just private jet, very expensive, in fact, the most expensive private jet in the world, so he can take a shower.
The safety of the president should be the priority of us as a Ghanaian.
That's why I said not a private jet. If he was going for any ordinary private jet that is safe, who will complain? Even though we would have talked small, because we would have wanted to know what is wrong with our own jet that we bought with our money. You and I contributed, and we bought a presidential jet. So Ghana has a presidential jet. And guess what? Other presidents, Liberian president and others, are borrowing that one to fly. He leaves it. He doesn't go for even a cheap private jet. Then we'll say, okay, maybe he's sharing with his friends and neighbors and he doesn't want to inconvenience them. So he's gone for a cheap one. No. He's going for top of the range.
Honorable, you do national dialogue about this e-levy.
It is important we have one. Just like I was giving you the example of the VAT. When people oppose it, Rawlings, with all his military background, didn't say, and majority in parliament, not like this hang parliament, didn't say, go and pass it for me. He said, let's hold national symposia around the country and pick people's views and thoughts. That is all that some of us are calling for. Let's have a national dialogue on it. Even as a minority, we have said that we are willing to have a discussion around even charging the fees. You know, putting the levy on the fees that the telecom operators are already charging, and not on the transactions. I mean, yeah, let me just give you one example. I am a member of parliament. My constituent calls me that, Honorable, I want to start selling banana. And you know the way they pack the banana on there. and that I want 400 Ghana cedis, so that I'll go and buy the banana and I'll be, you know, hawking it in the community. So I take my Momo and I say, oh, because maybe she has a child that she has to take care of. And I say, 400 Ghana. Aban say, when I send the 400 Ghana to her, they will tax it. What are you taxing? I mean, because we are told what is tax, income, revenue. But this one is capital I'm sending her to do business. She has not even started doing the business and you are already taxing. Then when she also goes to pay her supplier, maybe she goes to buy the banana, the one she buys it from says that, oh, minji cash, so fashion me Momo wallet. No. When she transfers it, they tax her again. I think that's robbery.
We need to develop our roots. Because I share the hot seats, our original television, and we get say MP or Dema Tamale North. Peswa so for na yenye no edin kita ho ye ko break ye ba ye be hwe ase north for MP minority no edin esi coups high court declare say na ni hu kwan so gina se ento ne so aba and supreme court pen no kra serve no kra ye nya no omo de na hye he and honorable suni ni be che be bi omo de honorable question ahye ye ba so be hwe ku ahodo a esisi wo aman ahodo a ben Ghana no ede ade to ade na se yenye free mo osan so ya brantie de no be ka che youth no so na be ya ye ka so cool sisi wa around into yen so betimi aye bi e wo ma mi ni nyina ene ne aka ye ko break ba ye no be din kita ho enko be bi atwen ye ba sisi a
lifestyle, dear, trash it. If you get dustbin for your place, do the shocky as you trash your waste. When you baller, you know get some, then hide your face.
Zoom Lion is giving you 1 million bins for free to get rid of your trash. Download the Zoom Lion app now for your free bin, or make trash collection payment, or simply dial *857#. Zoom Lion, your waste management expert.
Minda was say what train any akọ break aba hot seat me na wani gusu a wo hwe ya high original television me din di Akosua Asabea Asomaning ene ye hwe parliament so ni say ye parliament enya ne de news ni nyina trending issues ni nyina efie mra hye bedwam na de bana akoma hye bedwam adom ketwa no one of the vibrant honorables and as a member of parliament and then menya no mapena che me wa mrahye bedwem as reporter na one ne kaso also me to kwa me cover but na dem me producer Cynthia account e frame me so ne nsaka no na me so ono abusu hinde we sure so no so on two kwan ono a na me say na de the questions ni nyina by internet me guess MP the matter male no for empeso aso honorable Alhaji Alhassan Suhini ono na menya na me no etwetwe nkomo honorable yambra back to parliament say speaker as a otutu kwan dodo ni nyina ka plans and say mama 11 will not see the day of the light of the day ana.
Sometimes it's unfortunate that the majority leader and his people have created that impression in the minds of the people, especially when they are supposed to be building bridges and, you know, speaking language that unites instead of language that, you know, disunites us. Clearly, everybody who cares to know is aware that the speaker has not been very healthy. He's had some health challenges that he's attending to, and his trips have been scheduled, and you know, many of them are aware, they know. So it's only a matter of the government planning well and presenting, you know, bills that they consider important when they want him to sit, whilst he's available to sit. But if they ignore all of that and then blame it on him, it is just it's just insincere, you know, and I think it is not fair to the people of Ghana. It's not especially fair to the Right Honorable Speaker back then, because he's done everything, you know, possible to assure the government that despite his you know, association with the NDC, he's not going to be a puppet of the NDC. And trust me, sometimes even the NDC have had issues with him, because there have been times that we expected him to take certain stands that we didn't get cooperation from him. We've had issues with him, but you know, we don't think it is fair that the way they have created in the minds of the people that he is, because anybody, the president travels abroad every now and then to seek medical care. The finance minister, I mean, only recently has also, in fact, even his vetting, even his vetting had to be delayed because he was not well and had to travel abroad and all of that. So why do you make the speaker's issue, you know, an issue that will lead to him maybe being ridiculed? I don't think it is fair to him at all. So it's not deliberate. I mean, he's not well. It can befall anybody. So
before he goes on his medical trip, or no, more aware.
Yes, I mean, he gives the, you know, notification to the leadership especially. You know, say they know. They in fact, the last time they tried to bring up the e-levy was last week Friday, because they knew that he was traveling over the weekend, and they wanted him to, you know, preside so that they could see if they could get the House to pass the e-levy. And we remain resolute against the e-levy. And all they had to do was to mobilize their people, because the speaker was also ready to sit until late in the evening when they failed. And that is what they are not telling the people of Ghana, because they have a majority of one, because the independent member of parliament decided to caucus with them. So even if we are opposed to the e-levy, we are only 137. They have 138. The speaker was ready to sit the whole day. And we told them that in line with what our constituents have told us, we'll vote against it. In that case, what do?
Mobilize your people.
Mobilize your 138.
Come and
vote. If you fail to mobilize your 138 and you don't come and vote, don't blame the speaker. Don't blame the minority. Tell the people the truth, that you have failed. You see, and that's what they are not telling the people of Ghana, because our opposition as a minority, if they mobilize all their numbers, is not enough to stop them from passing the e-levy. So what is stopping them? They should tell the people of Ghana the truth. I think what is stopping them is that majority of them also know that it's a bad law.
Oh,
and
really?
So maybe.
Oh, so they will not come and vote?
Maybe they should be telling us why it is difficult for them to get their people.
Yeah, assignments across the country. All right, but let's come back to still in Parliament. Member of Parliament for Asen North. We know the story. This week, Asan raised it up. Meaning, say MPs and our Parliament today, you should hold the laws of the country in the highest esteem. Now, you're a citizen, cry, you follow more. But this is the case, and a high court will Cape Coast declare Papa and say, one for crime passo, any day you know as member of Parliament. Why are you still shielding him?
Well, I'm happy you have made reference to the law. The law is interesting. So the court issued its ruling. But the law also permits us, when a ruling is issued, to file an injunction. Or what the lawyers call a stay of execution. So they can say you are guilty. But you also have the right in the law to say that, yes, you say I'm guilty, but you cannot execute, the penalty that I'm supposed to pay until maybe another case that is in a higher court is addressed. So at the time that the court was sitting, the lower court was sitting, the case was at the Supreme Court. So when the court issued that he was guilty, his lawyers filed a stay of execution until the Supreme Court decision is done. So it's not shielding him, it's just within the law. So the Supreme Court decision is what we are all waiting for. So if the Supreme Court decision comes out and confirms what the lower court says, the law will take its course. If it comes out and say the lower court was wrong, he remains a member of Parliament. So that case is still pending. Now what we hear has happened yesterday was that, and you see, these are some of the things that we also have to be mindful as a country. Sometimes you can be seeking to do the right thing, but choose a wrong time to do it. And once you do that, all kinds of interpretations that are put on it can be blamed only on you. Because you see, you have a situation where in the midst of this e-levy, the government wrote to withdraw the speaker's bodyguards. Yet they sell you that, oh, we are pleading with them to come on board and help. But then they write to withdraw the speaker's bodyguard. What are you going to show? What are you proving? I'm saying you can be right to do so. But
the time
you choose, when anybody interprets it in any way, you can only blame yourself. Then the Deputy Minister of Finance under the NDC, who has been in Parliament and in Ghana all these years since he handed over power and is a member of Parliament, but is the ranking member on finance, and he has been advising the minority on the e-levy, is all of a sudden a criminal that you have to prosecute. So you take him to court. And yet, behind the scenes, you are telling the people that, oh, the minority, we are begging them, but then you take the one who is leading our fight to court. After 5 years since he left office, not as even the substantive Minister of Finance, but deputy.
So they needed evidence. You can't go to court empty.
It's fine, but that's what I said about timing. You can even be maybe it's right. Maybe he deserves to go to court. Maybe he has to be prosecuted. But when you choose the wrong time and then people put any interpretation on it, you can only blame yourself. Then you have the issue of this Asen of MP. Because there was a judgment issued, there was stay of execution. We're all waiting for the Supreme Court to rule. Then all of a sudden you are going to court to issue an injunction that he shouldn't hold himself up as a member of Parliament. So you cannot be preaching peace and beating war drums at the same time. You cannot be saying, let's work together and be shooting my soldiers. Oh, let's work together, let's not fight. Yet I see that your gun is aimed at all my commanders. So they went to court to say they're issuing an injunction. And the Supreme Court said, they said they couldn't find a speaker to serve the speaker. So the Supreme Court said, serve him himself, and so that the two of you can come to the court. So we hear the case.
So it's not like more shield.
No, it's not like once he is served, then it means he's no longer a member. No, once he is served, he will go to the Supreme Court with his lawyers and they will debate the matter. I don't know.
So until the Supreme Court pronounce judgment, he's still a member of Parliament. You still take part in voting.
Still take part in all the
e-levy voting.
Yes, but all we see is that the people who are pretending to the whole world that they are trying to beg us and work with us are not doing that. They are rather trying to kill us and kill our leaders. And Bob Marley says, how long? Redemption song.
Governments no pay, or the majority would do. And I'm about to say with this e-levy. Is a reduction, and after you are calling for total withdrawal.
Total withdrawal. We do not think that it is a tax policy that is well thought through. I mean, it
not even 1%, it's about 1%.
Total withdrawal, because it is not just it's a retrogressive tax. Just like I'm telling, I was giving you the example. Right. No tax in the world will tax one, money 2 times without the money generating anything. 400 Ghana cedis, I send to one person as capital. She sends it to pay, and you tax it twice. No tax regime tolerates that. It is not just well thought through. And there are so many other, reasons why we think that this is not a tax that we must allow the government to introduce in this country. It is not just how much they will make. I mean, we have even been magnanimous. We have said that we are not an unreasonable opposition. Right. We are not unreasonable at all. We have asked them, how much do you want to raise? 6.7 billion from this levy. Okay, we can help you raise that. Let's sit down and discuss. Cut down this expenditure at the presidency. Cut down this expenditure. Plug this loophole so that the $3 billion corruption is plugged. And see if you won't get 6.7 billion and you won't burden the people. We have even said, let's sit down. Let's look at even the charges that the telecom companies are already charging. They are charging 2%. Let's look at how you can also charge them, put your charge on that 2%. And let's see how much you will raise. So we are even helping them to raise, but we are saying this tax, the way they have, couched this e-levy, it's going to punish people, it's going to kill businesses, it's just going to throw us back like 10 years back. Look at how much we struggled to convince people to begin to do business with Momo, to be convinced that their money is really on their phone. You want to erode all those gains just by introducing a reckless tax, an obnoxious one.
You think with the implementation of the e-levy, November will not, mobile money issues, form.
Oh yes. In fact, the first people...
As convenient as it is.
The first people who will suffer, and there's research from Zimbabwe, there's research from Kenya and other countries to back it. The first people who usually suffer when you introduce such a tax are the merchants, the mobile money operators. They get laid off. They get laid off. Only 2 days ago, I heard from the Bank of Ghana that even though we have not passed the e-levy yet, we have not passed it yet, between 2019 and 2020 compared to 2021, there's already a reduction in growth rate of mobile money operations. So for example, in 2019, if 100 people were using Momo, it grew to 150 by 2021. That's 50% growth. But since we started talking about this e-levy from 2021 till now, it has grown by only 30%. So it has grown from 150 to 160. So it is still growing, but at a reduced rate. It tells you that once we pass it, it will stop growing. It will start retrogressing. People will stop using it because people are already stopping. That's why the growth rate is going down.
Right. Another thing, I bear concern to Ghanaians, and I'm putting this way, this coup details are around as the recent one again, because the attempted failed coup a few days ago is as Ghanaians, should we be worried?
Yes, we should be very, very worried. We should be very, very worried. In fact, some experts have described it as a third wave of coups in Africa, because that is how the coups that overthrew Dr. Kwame Nkrumah in the 60s started. And that is how the coups that also overthrew the Liman regime and co also started in the 70s and 80s. It started from, other countries and then eventually got to us. So as a country, we must be very worried, and especially in the times that we are in. Let nobody deceive himself or herself to think that Ghana will never walk that path again. Sometimes all it takes is just a little spark and a little motivation for people to lose their heads. No matter what we may be going through now, the message I have for people who may be tempted to pick lessons from these countries is that it is still better than a military regime, especially if you are somebody who didn't leave the times, but you at least you pay attention to history and you read. You will know that the freedoms that you have now will no longer be available to you in a military regime. The freedom to even just, take a phone, call into a radio station and free your mind on any MP or any minister or even the president should not be taken lightly, because under a military regime, no matter how good that military leader is, you will not be tolerated. You will not be allowed to do that. And so, even though we must be worried as a country, my appeal is that we must be doing things that will not, invite people who are on the fringes, lunatics, forgive my to want to toy with our democracy. And no democratic regime, I'll just speak of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. When he was overthrown, those who overthrew him talked about how he was a dictator. And you ask yourself, how does a democrat become a dictator? And then they cite examples of the one-party state, preventive detention acts. Do you know all of those were passed by Parliament? So let us not think that dictators are only those who come into office through the barrel of a gun. We have democratic dictators. And that is why I said that, especially because of the times we are living in as a country, we must be worried. We just finished discussing the e-levy. It is unpopular. Ghanaians don't want the e-levy. But when you find the president with his people trying to use all manner of things to still get it passed, to still make it a law, then you remember what they said of Nkrumah, that he was a dictator, even though he was using parliament. Then you wonder if that is not what our current president is trying to do. Because clearly the levy is unpopular. Yet you are using all manner of schemes, trying to still pass it. In fact, he himself in Kumasi the other day at their conference said that people are making noise that there's no majority in parliament. They are the majority, they should go and pass it. He's happy they have passed the budget. I mean, so when you speak that like that, then people begin to justify to say that you have moved away from what they thought you were. You are no longer the Democrats that they, and then they begin to justify their military intervention. So we ought to be very careful. Again, we started with a little talk on Boku. Boku is very close to Burkina Faso. In fact, they cross into each other. Boku is not stable. And then Burkina Faso has been taken over. I mean, so we have to be extra careful. All the ingredients that lead to a coup, unfortunately for us, are present in our country today, our prayer and our hope is that we will be able to steer clear and remain the icon, the oasis of peace that we are in the sub-region.
Honorable, any presidential vision in the future?
No.
Oh, you look like a presidential candidate.
I beg you,
already.
just leave me to serve them, the good people of the Tamale North constituency. That is my focus, and I leave the rest to the Almighty Allah.
Honorable, one day I'll call you and I'll tell you I gave you this prophecy and you rejected it, but the prophecy has to come to pass. Your body share hand you do be say what the hot seat so ene MP or about Tamale North about so Peswaso. Honorable Alhaji Alhassan Suhene and I no twa nkomo se oba ma hye bedwam nso a wo hwa bedweko a so man panyini yi asoafo a omototo oma no ne ye hwese dwuma de ahye omo nsa no betimi aye asa bedweko no so oka omo ho mecha appointment committee e o ma hye bedwam nso oka omo ho dom ketwa no nso wo hwe eye ma hye bedwafo na ade bia no mu jomo na nso a omo contribute to parliamentary proceedings abranti so account me friend abranti because me who is a very young man or can who be today say neno ensem bebre na ya kan me gidi say would be ato okoto dwompa mo youth no or the efuto kese na de amamo no matter how you feel say oman no aye it's better to live under this condition than say ye be fetu because amaya ho do etwa ye ho so ye bi nte say ye bi it's better this way than to be under a military ruler. Meaning so they know about to go to gym. That's an ever share our original television. So media production team na say Cynthia Kans, me producer Papa, Mr. A.B. Kakari, Mr. Norman, and I Mr. Awache, and then no more equate outside production. That's an ever share. Me did Akosua Asabea Asomaning. Bye bye.
Ebraso semede kase ebosronko no ebramo ewo original TV so enti kwana kwosha mententem